seems we sent Amy away. No, we are here.
Yeah, looks
Let's
like.
wait for a minute or maybe.
Should we declare the incident mitigated?
Absolutely, yeah. And if the pipeline is green, we can even declare it as resolved if we don't want to add any more comments to the chat channel, because this will be closed then.
Okay.
Yep. Can someone add like the details into the issue, into the incident issue?
Sure.
Thanks. Amy says she's joining.
Hey everyone. So, not sure if Ruben's around, so I'm just ping.
I saw Skarbek was around. I'm not sure if he's joining the call, but he seems to be around.
Hopefully he's not around. Since he's meant to be off. Awesome. Great stuff. So welcome everyone. Happy Monday. So let's begin. So got a few announcements and things, mostly around coming up time off and Myra being off as well for a lot of this week. So that's good news. And also the retro. So I've just mentioned there, what I intend to do is we on Wednesday have the APAC EMEA timed retro delivery weekly. So we'll use that time to put together a proposal of actions that we can take from this. Specifically, I've chosen that time just because at the moment, Skarbek and Myra have had the most input there. So we've already got some kind of good thoughts from at least a couple of people in the Americas. But please go ahead and add some thoughts onto the issue before the end of tomorrow. And then we can propose some actions or an action on Wednesday and share that back out to everyone. Awesome. So most important topic, discussion topic is how are we getting on for the release? Like, is there anything we need to still do?
Do you want to share the good news, Ahmad?
Yeah, sure. We just resolved the issue. So I think we are on track to release tomorrow.
Great. So that's the release deploy problems. Is that right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Great stuff.
Yeah, I think as long as the pipeline is green, then we are all set for tomorrow.
Be fine. Yeah, perfect. Great stuff. Well done. And for the other incident, for the scaling, Kubernetes scaling problem you had this morning, Ahmad, how's that?
Yeah, we also resolved this. So yeah, all good. We
Awesome.
we are resumed to deploy, I think.
Nice work. Good stuff. On that one in particular, was there, so I saw you ended up kind of involved for the majority of the duration of the incident. Was there was there something that, what am I trying to ask here? Like, I guess, what would have been needed for somebody that wasn't a delivery person who's been involved specifically in the migration? What would have been needed for someone like that to be able to help us? Like, I'm trying to think about like, what are the sort of follow-up actions or training that we maybe should take so that we, like any engineer in reliability would be able to debug something like that?
Unfortunately, it was tricky because it was due to the shielded VMs that being applied a couple of days ago, and it required some trial and error until we figured it out. So I'm not really sure if there's something like we can do to get it like from the first trial. We had the help from like the on-call SREs on-call, Steve and Ahmed, and also with the delivery like being there, so they can basically, so we can retry the pipelines also and see what's happening. So to be honest, I don't know like if there is something specific we can just do to magically solve it.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. Keep that sort of stuff in mind, because one thing I'm sort of thinking about for how we handle this year is, as delivery, we're not staffed for incidents. So I know you will end up involved in quite a lot of them, and as release managers, we absolutely like should be playing a part, but also we don't like have great coverage over time zones and across like vacations and things for us to be kind of like the experts in all of the Kubernetes stuff. So there will be some stuff we just are because we've been the closest to it. But in those cases, that should be really interesting to hear, like what were the specific skill sets, or like if someone had known X, would more people have been able to help us out? Because there are certainly times where we've actually had a bit of an unusual run, I think, for the last like 4 or 5 months, where a lot of release managers, either at least 50% of our release managers have been SREs, but that's not a guarantee. Like we don't split the rotation that way. It's just down to availability. So there's certainly going to be times in the future where it will be like 2 back-end engineers. And at that time, like, you know, we can't necessarily guarantee that like it's delivery who can resolve these things. We may not have someone available. So just trying to think like, how do we start spreading these knowledge things across a bigger pool of people?
I think in this case, it worked pretty well because I think that Steve and Ahmad jumped on it and started digging, right? And they found also that it's maybe related to this change of shielded VMs, I think, if I followed it correctly. So I think this was good. The question is just if we wouldn't have found a cause or something to dig into, who would have been the driver for this one, right? The same discussion that we had before. We need to find an owner of an incident, right? So that we don't have the feeling we need to stick around to see that it's getting forward. Because if there are 2 people sitting and trying to poke on it, then who will take over and continue if we get stuck, right? This is always the thing.
This is really interesting point, yeah, because like since I declared the incident, I'm not sure if I can leave at any point in time and leave people also like to trace it down, or I just like need to be involved, because like this is also something I wanted it to be mitigated because we need to restart deploying again. So yeah, this is a very good point.
It's a great question. And absolutely, the answer absolutely is yes. In actual fact, this one's interesting, and I think probably affects SREs a little bit more disproportionately because you get sort of sucked in. But actually, I did notice on this one, I think, I don't know if you still are, but earlier, Ahmad, you were named as the DRI for this incident. And at that point, no, you can't leave because you're the DRI. But what you can do is hand over, and then yes, is the answer, you can leave. So I would say, and for actually everybody, I think we're going to need to start being a bit more active on this. So we will often be the DRI when we call create the incident. But at the point where you know it's not like, you know, you're not digging into release tools, or you're not digging into the diff that you just deployed, or, you know, it's something beyond delivery. At that point, I would recommend start trying to like figure out who is the DRI. So I would say for this incident this morning, Ahmad, like probably quite quickly, Steve should have been the DRI because he was the engineer at call and there was an infrastructure issue. So at that point, I would be quite proactive and actually say, like, given we now know it's this, Steve, can I assign the DRI array to you? And then you can update the issue. And then that removes you from being the person to do the coordinating and having to keep on driving it forwards. But I would say watch for that stuff. We always want to make sure there is a DRI. And if it is you, make sure you hand over to the person it should be to drive this stuff forwards.
So just one more question on this subject. I thought the DRI is always the IMOC, but I'm not sure if that is correct.
No, that's not right. No, so the DRI used to be default, the engineer on call. That changed recently, so it's not the default. And you'll often see there are incident issues with nobody assigned, they're unassigned. And that's basically the change that has come about. So there's no sort of, the EOC is officially, like according to the handbook, the point they engage, they are the DRI. But I still think there's probably great value in us actually clarifying that. When you see you're working on an incident issue that hasn't got anyone assigned, it's worth just asking, because that's how we keep the kind of, I guess, things moving forwards and avoid it just stalling. Is if somebody actually feels like they are the DRI, then it's a little easier. But the IMOC is there to help us. So the IMOC, if you do need the IMOC, you can page them. It's more normal for the EOC to page the IMOC and say, hey, I need help. So our more normal flow would be, say, for example, tests fail, quality on call would usually be our first point of contact, right? At the point where they say there's something wrong with the environment, we would almost always at that point ask the EOC to take it over, take on the active DRI role and lead an investigation into what's happening. We would assist them probably, and the IMOC can be there and they can escalate there. But for us, I think we would almost always just think the EOC will be the next person.
Okay, so every time we open an incident that is blocking the auto deployments, that is an S2 incident, we notify the EOC, but we don't notify the IMOC. That is the role of the EOC. Is that correct?
It's up to you. So it's a little bit of a judgment call. So if you think of the IMOC as the person who is there to kind of help out if needed. So if you need to coordinate things, the IMOC will help with that. If you need to like communicate stuff, the IMOC will help with that. I would say probably when you first open an incident, most times you probably won't need the IMOC, right? Because at that stage, it's probably quality or the EOC may be there to help you. But if you want to page them, by all means do. There's not a you should have paged them type of thing. It's just, it may not always be necessary.
And how do I page them? Do we have a handle for them?
It should be the same. You can just do I think it's like /page. You can do it when you raise the incident. There's an option to page. Is it /page IMOC as well? Do you know, Henry, off the top of your head? It's something like that.
Yeah, we had this. I didn't do this for a long time. I need to check. I think we have a PD command, but I think we also have a PD CMOC, I see. But I need to read documentation, to be honest. That changed a few times. I'm not really sure right now.
It's something like /page. You probably don't need it because you can lean on the EOC. And I think if the EOC isn't driving it, you can perhaps suggest to them, like, do we need to call the IMOC in? Could you page the IMOC? Like the IMOC will almost certainly be more expecting the page to come from the engineer on call. Not to say you can't page them, but that's the more normal flow.
Thanks.
Awesome. Great. So great work. Is there any other stuff that we need to do for 14.7? No? Amazing. Great work. So B is probably a little bit more kind of FYI, but I just wanted to check in on thoughts on this. So I shared a link here, the YouTube link, which was basically last week in the APAC demo. Graham gave 2 really great demos. They were both kind of around future direction things, around release tools and Kate's workloads. But they were very much interesting in terms of deployment thinking and vision and what we can do. So certainly relevant to all of us. So definitely encourage you to have a watch of those, and not like we're going to do it straight away, like they are. probably, some of them are maybe not even this year, like maybe a little further out. They're quite visionary type things. But what I wanted to actually do was also encourage everyone, like if you do give a demo or see a demo or have a meeting and you think, that was a really relevant, like it was beyond just the like Kubernetes migration demo scope, or it was beyond something, feel free to share those out and suggest them for the team. Because I think we are at this year, we will see a lot more overlap between our projects and how they sort of fit together. And then just opening up really, if anyone has any better ways to share these versus just us randomly dropping them in Slack and saying, this thing was useful to watch. Like, should we like do something with our YouTube playlist, or like how would be the best way to kind of pick up the, I guess, these alerts that there is something interesting to watch?
I'm just thinking out loud. For engineering, there is something called Engineering Week in Review, in which every week someone adds something for us to read on Monday, right? It is some sort of newsletter. Perhaps we could adopt the same approach and have a newsletter. It doesn't have to be a document. It could be an issue of things that are interesting. But I guess that is also the point of this meeting. So I'm not sure. We could also bring topics to this meeting.
It's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea at all. Okay, well, let's try them out. Like, I think if you see stuff that's interesting, see how it feels, see if Slack feels like the more, like, depends, I guess, on what day and what sort of audience, but let's try it out, because I do think sharing some of this stuff might be interesting. Cool. Great. Thanks for sharing that, Myra. And then C, Myra, your point.
An issue would be nice and easy to start with, because I mean, anyone can easily just go put a comment, I found this interesting. Yeah, of course, the same is true for also for a Google Doc. I guess we are more used to issue. Yeah,
it makes sense. Yeah, okay. Okay, let me open an issue. I'll stick to an issue with a little comment and see if you find it useful, continue to add, and you can turn on notifications or whatever. And let's see how that works out. Great, nice, great, thanks a lot.
Okay, so mine is also some sort of FYI. I believe 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago, I don't remember, we had this security fire and drill in which we discussed what to do with when a security fix introduces some sort of breaking change. And I had the time finally to put together a document trying to address all the action points that we concluded. So please have a look at it and leave feedback. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for putting that together. Great. Awesome.
Sorry if this has already been covered and I missed it because I joined late. But what did the RMs have to contribute for the incident? Just the highlight if you've already covered it. Like, what were the questions for the RM?
So my main question was around.
No, I mean
in the security release,
on the incident. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I might maybe give us an overview of, I guess, like how your incidents played out.
Sorry, which incident? I'm sorry, like I was checking.
That's it.
It's another
So many
incident,
incidents.
actually.
Oh, I think there were 2 incidents.
Today, you mean? Yeah, we had 2 incidents.
Yeah, today.
We had one with shielded VMs being enabled on our GCP, and this caused issues with Kubernetes. I'm not sure if we are fully recovered now, because right now I'm also seeing G-staging failing. So I think after our meeting, I will also like get back and see if it's resolved or not, because it's resolved, but it seems like not. And the other issue was release.gitlab.net had the last 14.8 tag being deployed to it, but we had issues with Let's Encrypt, I think, not being like reconfigured via Chef because we enabled it or disabled it. I don't really remember if we enabled it or disabled it. I think enabled it. So this was the other issue. Yeah.
Okay, so the other one, the one for release, probably affected us directly. But
Yeah.
the first one, what was like the main role of the RM on the call?
It affected the deployment because it was on G-staging, so we were not able to deploy because it affected Kubernetes clusters, basically.
Okay, sorry, my question might not be very clear. I think I'm extra tired today. I thought there was like 2 incident calls, so I was wondering for the first one, like who requested the RM and not who, but for what? As in, like to know the diff or to something else?
You mean to like who initiated the incident? You mean, or
Not who, as in for what they called you onto the incident call, pulled you into the incident call.
I mean, like I don't really get the question. Like
he triggered it.
I think it was ourselves.
We
ourselves noticed it. So in both cases, we noticed deployments failing in G-staging for the first one. And then when looking into it, we saw that Kubernetes had scaling issues, and then hour-long discussion and then looking into it, discovered the problem. And for release, we also saw the release deployment failing for the new package that we tagged today. And then we started looking into that and created an incident for that one. So in both cases, we created the incident, even though we didn't cause the incidents, but we created them.
Okay, thanks. That explains.
Sorry, I didn't get your question. I'm sorry. I'm extra tired today.
So good. We're all here to help out. We got that. It would be a good one though for that one, Ahmad, to actually think as well, once we get to the bottom of it, why, whether or if there was, but there should have been an alert that went with that incident. Like we shouldn't only discover scaling problems when we do deployments. Like there's some severe limitation to our cluster if it can't scale. So it might be worth us also just reviewing the observability of the cluster as well. Awesome. So I do want to get to the social bit. So encourage everyone to click the links on 3 because MTTP is looking super. So well done, Myra, well done, Ahmad, and also well done everyone else who's been involved in all the stuff. Like it's looking really, really great this week. So definitely have a click through on those things. And we've got some actions coming in as well to do some general improvements, particularly on the security releases. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.